spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. We have reached the end of the regular season, NFL Week 18, right around the corner. It's Friday, so we're going to be previewing each game for this weekend, making game picks, and joining me today, Kambui Bomani, host of the Independent Intel Sports Podcast, former writer for PFF and Fansided, currently writing for HBCU Legends. Kambui, how are you feeling on this Friday, man?
Feeling pretty good. Great opportunity to be on your show. You've had an incredible amount of remarkable guests, so for me to be a part of that club is phenomenal. Can't wait to talk football. A lot of interesting games to tap into, so it should be a good one.
Yeah, well, excited to have you on. I was guested on your podcast a little bit earlier this season. Really enjoyed my time there. You got great sports knowledge. We're ready to make some game picks on a Friday. Before we jump in, we do want to give a quick update on Damar Hamlin, the Bills safety who suffered a cardiac arrest on Monday Night Football. The whole sports world, the whole American culture in general has been focused on this young man's condition, and the latest is about as good an update as you can get, Kambui. The breathing tube has been removed. He is speaking and in fact has been able to FaceTime with the Bills team and was FaceTime to the entire team during their latest team meeting and told them that he loved them, and that apparently has really energized and galvanized them, understandably, as a team. What are your thoughts on the latest updates on Damar before we get started in the preview?
Yeah, it's phenomenal news to see how much progress he's made in the past few days compared to where it really all started, where his life literally flashed before his eyes for 9 minutes as he was getting CPR on the field. Tremendous news. I think it's the ultimate pick-me-up that the NFL community needed to kind of progress and move forward to really the dog days of the football season as we head into the playoffs. So really rooting for him, really rooting for his family to assist and be by his side as he goes through his recovery. But it's the news we were all looking for. It's the news we got. And I think we're all pretty glad with the information that we've been able to get.
Yeah, it is absolutely amazing, the return that he has, the fact that he still has cognitive ability, he's speaking, he's moving, as about as positive an update as you can get. One thing, we're not going to dive into all the new scenarios. We will say that the NFL permanently canceled the Bills-Bengals game. That game will not be played. We talked a little bit earlier in the week as like maybe there's a Week 19. We kind of speculated on that. That's not happening. They have said that and I guess they have to vote on it today, the NFL, the council, but they're going to go it by winning percentage, it looks like. So if the Chiefs, and that's the game we're going to preview first, that the Chiefs win, they get the 1 seed. However, if the Bills or Bengals make it to the AFC Championship game, there's a possibility of doing it at a neutral site. So there's all these kind of factors. I'm not going to dive into that right now. We really just want to preview the individual games, maybe talk about playoff impact and make our picks. Does that sound like a fair way to approach this? There's so much we don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like the most realistic way to approach it at this point in time.
Great. So if you guys are in the chat and you're saying, oh, but this and that, like, let's just preview this week. A lot of this stuff will work itself out anyway. The AFC North is part of this. There's going to be a coin toss if the Ravens beat the... We're not going to dive into that right now. We're actually going to launch next Friday. We're going to relaunch the Legit Football podcast, where we're going to go a little bit longer and dive into the wild card weekend, and we'll have more clarity there. So for today, Kambui and I, we're just going to go through the Week 18 games, talk about each one, make our picks, and wrap the show up in 30 minutes as we do. So we've got Anthony Weiner, our producer behind the scenes. Go ahead and get that timer ready. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football. Week 18, final regular season game previews starts now. Kambui, there are 2 games on Saturday that I want to start with. We will start with the game I mentioned earlier, Kansas City Chiefs traveling to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs, it's win and they get the 1 seed, which means they get the bye. Maybe they don't get the home field when it comes to the AFC Championship game if they make it that far, but they do get the bye. There's a reason to play hard in this game. Vegas on the other side, Jarrett Stidham had a surprisingly great game last week. It is at home. What is it going to take for the Raiders to pull the upset here at home?
Probably more heroic efforts from Stidham. He was phenomenal, and I expect with the Chiefs having everything to play for, they're going to come into the game, load the box, prioritize neutralizing Josh Jacobs as much as they can because he's been a phenomenal running back this year. And it's going to be up to Stidham to kind of take what the defense gives him and make big-time throws. There's some very contested coverage opportunities. This is a Chiefs secondary that's been pretty vulnerable throughout the year against elite weapons. Devontae Adams has been, I can go as far and say he's probably been the best receiver in football, considering the circumstances he's had to play with throughout the year. So being able to keep him under wraps will go a long way for the Chiefs to potentially win this game. But for the Raiders, he's got to be a heavy enforcer involved, and it all comes back to Stidham. If he continues to play to the level he has, they have a great chance to pull off the upset.
So I have pulled up here the DVOA, Football Outsiders DVOA, which you guys have heard me mention this on this show before. It's a high-level way to look at the overall effectiveness of a team, and I've done it since Week 10 as opposed to the whole season. Right now, Kansas City is number 2 overall in DVOA since Week 10. The Raiders are 20th. However, the Raiders are 12th in offense, and KC's 14th in defense. And as you mentioned, Kambui, they have been susceptible. The Texans took them to overtime. The Broncos nearly beat them last week. This is a team that you can move the ball on. I expect there to be a lot of points scored in this game. I wanted to pick Vegas in this. I ultimately decided that the Chiefs would just end up scoring more, but I do think it'll be an offensive game. Who do you see winning this game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's the Chiefs as well, but I think it has the chance to be one of the better games of the weekend. Two divisional rivals going against each other. The last few times they've played, it's been relatively high scoring. It's been close, knit and tuck, and considering the fact that Kansas City has a lot to play for, the Raiders have really this strong chip on their shoulder, even with Stidham at the quarterback position. It'll be a close one. It'll be fireworks, but I got KC pulling away because I just feel like they're the better team at the end of the day.
Yeah. One last thing on this game. The Raiders led the Chiefs by 17-0 at one point earlier this season. Of course, they blew that lead as the Raiders have done all year. Let's move to the other Saturday game. I think what we'll do, Kambui, is we'll get a little more attention to the games that have playoff implications and less attention to the ones that don't. This one has big implications. It is the battle for the AFC South. Jacksonville Jaguars at home against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee losers of 6 straight. Jacksonville has been surging just to get back to this point. Whichever team wins the division. How do you like this one?
Yeah, I really like the Jacksonville Jaguars' chances. They've been playing particularly well coming into this game. They've got a crazy winning streak really predicated off of the evolution of Trevor Lawrence as a passer. He's taken the ultimate U-turn from where he kind of was at one point in the season to being a guy that has 14 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in his last several starts. So I like what he's building upon, like the running game they have with Travis Etienne. And the most underrated aspect of this team has really been their pass rush gradually and slowly. We know what Josh Allen presents, but Trayvon Walker's been solid, and they got a bevy of guys up the middle that can get to the quarterback as well. I like their ability to control the line of scrimmage defensively, and I think their offense has been just so balanced and explosive enough that they'll probably score around 20 points, and I think that's enough to beat a Tennessee team who will have Josh Dobbs being their starting quarterback in this matchup.
Yeah, the one thing going for the Titans is Derrick Henry did get a week off. He is fresh, and he has been their entire offense, especially with Tannehill out. Malik Willis really didn't provide much of a spark. He's so raw as a rookie. Dobbs actually had one of their better passing performances last week in a losing effort at Dallas. I'm with you here. I could see Tennessee winning this just because it's a divisional game. It's hard to beat a division opponent twice. The Jags did win the earlier matchup against Tennessee to set up this scenario in the first place. Just like the Raiders, I could see a scenario, but at the end of the day, Jacksonville is just playing so well. Trevor Lawrence actually playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL over the last few weeks. I'm agreeing. I have to go Jacksonville here. Are you picking the Jags? I don't know if I heard your official pick there.
Yeah, I let off with saying I like the Jags' chances.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So let's go to Sunday. Minnesota Vikings, I mentioned before we started recording, 30th in overall DVOA since Week 10. So Football Outsiders DVOA thinks they're the 30th best team in the NFL over the last 7 to 8 weeks. They are traveling to the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields will not play in this game. They are sitting him down now because of a hip issue. The Vikings still have a shot at the number 2 seed if San Francisco ends up losing and they win. Does Chicago have a chance here with I don't even know who's starting at quarterback for them. Nathan Peterman, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Nathan Peterman or Trevor Simeon, either one of those two. I don't think they have a chance, and to be honest, I don't think they want to. I think the goal is to get the number one overall pick, and that's very clear by pretty much putting the towel on Justin Fields and saying your season is over. They have one of the worst offensive lines in football. They have one of the worst defenses in football. This is the ultimate pick-me-up game for the Vikings as they can kind of gain some momentum heading into Wild Card Weekend next week. This is a game they should win, but if they don't, it's a huge concern moving forward as we head into playoff play because it really enhances the fact that this might be one of the more overrated teams in the playoff field.
Yeah, I agree. This is such a good matchup for the Vikings with what they've had to deal with lately and getting pasted by the Packers last week. I also have the Vikings winning this game on the road, especially without Justin Fields on the other side. David Morazzo in the chat, thanks for bringing this up. The NFL just officially approved the postseason plan that we mentioned earlier, so we will know more clarity on that when we do our actual playoff preview next Friday. But thank you, David, for letting us know that that is how they're going to move forward. Cincinnati Bengals, one of these teams affected, at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens won this game earlier in the season, but they had Lamar. Lamar is still not practicing. We thought he was going to be back by Christmas. Still not practicing. Apparently, he was seen at the last game with a little bit of a hitch in his step, not walking, clearly still visibly injured. Cincinnati, with all the emotions that they dealt with from that Monday night game, they've been given the AFC North essentially at this point, but there's a whole coin flip scenario if they lose this game. So there is a little bit of it's hard to call a game like this, Kambui.
It is hard to call a game like this. I mean, these are two divisional rivals. The AFC North in general is basically a bruised and battered division every single year. But I think this game is just really going to come down to Joe Burrow's presence and then the lack of Lamar Jackson. I mean, this Baltimore offense has struggled to crack 20 points since Lamar went out with the injury against Denver. And I think that Pittsburgh Steelers game really highlighted how much of a drop-off there is between Lamar and Huntley. Huntley's a solid backup, but there's just limitations within his game as a passer, and he's not the more dynamic athlete. So if Dobbins isn't really getting it done on the ground, they basically have no sense of offensive substance. So I like Cincinnati to come in and really get this victory and truly solidify they'll have a home playoff game in the first round. But like you said, a letdown is possible. I mean, these guys haven't played in a minute, for obvious reasons because of the Hamlin situation. So they may start off slow, but I think over time the better football team will prevail, and I think that's the Bengals due to the solidification at the quarterback position.
Same. I'm in agreement with you. I think if Lamar was there, they would be a little bit harder. I may even lean Baltimore just with everything Cincinnati's had to deal with emotionally since Monday. But the fact that Huntley's still in there, the fact that you've still got Jamar Chase, Mixon, Burrow, you've got all these weapons, and the Bengals defense has been playing really well. I'm also picking Cincinnati. Let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. This is one of those games we can just kind of let's pick, maybe give a second or two of commentary and then move on. Colts at home, Houston, as you mentioned, with Chicago. Those are the only two teams that still have a shot at the number one overall pick. Quickly, let's pick this game and go forward.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Colts, although Lovey has talked a pretty good game from what I've seen from some Twitter reports about how he wants this team to go out strong and get this victory, but Colts have the better team, and in my eyes, Houston's goal is to get them at least close to the number one pick, so I don't really expect them to go all out and try to win this game, so probably got the Colts by double digits.
I am picking Indianapolis. There's a couple factors to consider. It will be Sam Ehlinger starting this game for Indianapolis. Houston, as nice as it would be to have the number one overall pick, I would be shocked if the Bears take a quarterback. So the Texans should still have their choice of quarterbacks at number 2 overall. So that's something to keep in mind. So Houston may really be motivated to play this game. But that being said, I'm still going to pick the Colts at home. Jeff Saturday in his let's be clear, last game as a Colts head coach gets a win to end on a fun note there. Bookend, his first and last game, he gets wins. Miami Dolphins, playoff implications here. My Miami Dolphins at home against the New York Jets. It's not Tua. It's not Zach Wilson. It's not even Mike White. It's Skylar Thompson for the Dolphins against Joe Flacco for the Jets. Both teams have lost 5 straight games going into this. So one team is going to end on a high note. One team is going to be really licking their wounds. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Jets. Defensively, they've been one of the better units throughout the year, and I think that continues against a guy in Skylar Thompson that has shown so far when he's gotten his opportunity to start in real live regular season football action. He is susceptible to turnovers and mistakes, and that's expected. He's a young quarterback, really getting accustomed to the league. Joe Flacco's a vet. He's actually played particularly well. I think one game this year against Cleveland, that Miami secondary has been feast or famine throughout the season. I think he has a relatively solid day through the air, and I think the Jets probably end the season on a high note with a double-digit victory. Potentially may even keep their playoff chances alive, depending on what happens with Buffalo and New England.
So I wanted to pick the Jets in this, and then I found out Joe Flacco was playing quarterback. They're also missing 3 starting offensive linemen. The Dolphins are also beat up. Teron Armstead has possible he's going to miss another game. That's a huge loss for them. Bradley Chubb looking like he might miss this game as well, and they've been beat up in general. And of course, no Tua. But when I found out it was Joe Flacco, I did switch back to the Dolphins at home. The Jets are just playing spoilers. They cannot. They're eliminated from the playoffs. The Dolphins need the Patriots to lose and to beat the Jets to still have a shot, which is very realistic. The Patriots are playing the Bills. My instinct was to pick the Jets with you, Kambui, but this is the first place we're going to disagree with Joe Flacco at quarterback. I think the Dolphins, they're blitz heavy with those offensive linemen out for the Jets. I think they can get to Flacco, and he has no mobility, and he does not play well under pressure these days. So I'll go with my Dolphins, Week 18, to break this 5-game losing streak. Carolina Panthers at New Orleans Saints. Neither of these teams is in playoff contention anymore. The Panthers losing to the Bucs last week, so we can quickly pick this one and move on.
Yeah, I'll go with my Saints. They're at home. They're very determined to finish the year on a high note. I remember when they had that embarrassing loss against the Buccaneers on Monday night. One of their leaders, Pete Warner, vowed the team would finish 4-0, and they're one win away from finishing 4-0 since that debacle. I think they've bought into what Dennis Allen's been preaching. Physical, tough team. Both squads have susceptible quarterback play, but I do like the Saints being able to end the year on somewhat of a high note with 4 straight wins and close it out at home with a W against the Panthers.
I was leaning towards New Orleans at first as well. I am picking Carolina. This is one of my I usually pick 3 to 4 upsets a week. This is one of those. It's really just because it's a division matchup. The Panthers, until late in that game, were on their way to a division victory in the NFC South until Brady remembered that he has Mike Evans on his team and decided to throw it to him for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. But I do think that Carolina can pull this off. I think it's going to be one of those close, low-scoring games. If the Panthers defense, which without J.C. Horn hasn't been as good in the secondary. They got torched last week, but they've still been good in the pass rush. Derek Brown, Brian Burns, they can get to Andy Dalton, make him make some mistakes. Saints defense has been playing well. I just see this as another one of those AFC South kind of slugfest, like 16-13 type games, so I will go with Carolina on this. Buffalo Bills, the team that Damar Hamlin plays for, at home against the New England Patriots. If the Bills win and the Chiefs lose, Bills would get the 1 seed based on the new rules that David mentioned were approved earlier today. The Patriots win and they're in, or lose and have everybody else lose. That has a possibility, but win and they're in. But the Bills have really owned the Patriots as of late. How do you like this one?
Yeah, I think this is going to be surprisingly close. But I'm going to probably lean with Buffalo because their offense, while it has struggled recently through the air, it's a lot more reliable than New England's. We can honestly say Matt Patricia being their OC has really subjugated the Patriots back to irrelevancy throughout the year. And I think it'll probably be the main reason why they may miss the playoffs because their defense has been good enough throughout the year. And I just trust what Buffalo has in Allen and what they've discovered recently in the running game with Singletary and Cook to get enough offense to where they're probably up by a substantial margin that New England really can't cover because they don't really have a consistent reliability or an identity in the passing game with Matt Jones.
Yeah, I think Buffalo is going to win this one handily. I think this Bills team, especially since they've spoken to Damar now and they've seen his face and they have seen that he's going to make it, that they didn't lose their teammate, they didn't lose their brother, that he's fighting through this. I think this is going to be the kind of game where they are absolutely pumped up. They've dominated the Patriots in the games that they've played. You think about that playoff game last year where they literally didn't punt and they scored on 7 drives, on 7 touchdowns. I think this could be another one of those where they're playing for Damar. They're playing for still possibly getting the 1 seed. I like the Bills at home to win in a blowout. Let's quickly go through halftime. As always, guys, go to legitfootball.com. Sign up for our free daily NFL newsletter. We'll give you the top 6 stories of the day, curated, broken down, so you can skim it and get on with your day. Just go to legitfootball.com, enter your email address, sign up for free. You can always unsubscribe. We're going to be sending you that newsletter all year long in the off season. Free agency, coaching news that we expect on Black Monday, the draft, you name it. Kambui, why don't you let everybody know where they can find your stuff?
Yeah, Independent Intel Podcast is on 2 platforms, Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. I have my own Instagram page that promotes the podcast called @Intel Podcast, where I provide commentary with stories, whether analysis of other people's posts or promoting my own. So go to those 2 platforms, you'll find it there. Weekly productions, as always, try to get one out every week. So stay tuned to those 3 outlets to stay in tune with my podcast, Independent Intel.
Great. Thank you. Make sure to check out Independent Intel on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Let's go ahead and jump into the second half and pick the rest of these games. I see Anthony's got the timer ready behind the scenes. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have locked up the NFC South, taking on the Atlanta Falcons on the road. So it's a division matchup. The Falcons have nothing to play for. They can't even play for spoiler. Todd Bowles, at least as recently as a day ago, has said that he doesn't plan on resting the Bucs starters. He said there's things that they need to work on. It's still a possibility. Maybe they don't play a full game. So it's a little bit harder to pick these kind of games. But how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think this is coaches speak. I could see Brady and those guys maybe being out there for a quarter, and then I think them packing it in as they prepare for Wild Card Weekend at home against whoever they play. That could be Dallas or whoever. I have Atlanta because I think Atlanta, towards the end of the year, they need to kind of formulate what type of identity they want to have moving forward, and that really is reliant on the personnel that you want to bring to the new year. They need to find out what Desmond Ridder brings to the table, and he's been better the last 2 games. Their defense hasn't been as bad. And, offensively, if they can get Tyler Algier going even more to kind of gain his confidence up to the next year, that's huge for their offensive identity in 2023. So I like Atlanta to win it, mainly because of what they need to play for to kind of shape the landscape of their franchise for the next year. And that Tampa Bay is really going to probably mail it in after quarter 1.
For what it's worth, Vegas thinks that Tampa Bay will sit their starters. They're actually favoring the Falcons at home in this game. I picked Tampa Bay just because that's one of my upsets. I'm assuming that Brady at least starts. I do like the Falcons. I've been high. Tyler Algier was kind of my sleeper fantasy pick before the year began. It's nice to see him producing. I drafted him in both of my dynasty leagues, and happy to see the fruits of that labor. Desmond Ridder got his first win as a QB starter in the NFL last week. I'd like to see Atlanta win. I'm gonna pick Tampa Bay. Just because you got to pick an upset, and technically Atlanta's favored, so I'm going to pick the Falcons there. Pittsburgh Steelers home against the Cleveland Browns. This one I do want to give a little bit of attention to. So you got Mike Tomlin at 8-8, where we all said, oh, this is the year. This year 16, he's finally going to have a losing record. One of the best teams, actually ninth in DVOA since Week 10. So the 9th best team according to Football Outsiders since Week 10. Has the team not only in position to get another winning record and keep Tomlin's streak of 16 straight years without a losing record intact, but has a chance at the playoffs. If the Patriots lose, if the Dolphins lose, and if the Steelers win this game at home against the Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the playoffs.
Yeah, crazy to think because at one point they were like 2-6. We're gonna have to roll with the Steelers. Defensively, they've turned a massive corner, especially with TJ Watt back into the lineup. And then I think offensively, gradually and slowly, you're starting to see the fruits of Kenny Pickett's labor. Like, he's coming into his own right before our eyes. Najee Harris is starting to gain traction in the running game, and they're incorporating all of their wide receivers now consistently when it matters, from George Pickens to Deontay Johnson. I like where Pittsburgh is headed mentally. It's like they've always been a mentally tough team, but now the impact players are also coinciding with their toughness. And against a Browns team where Jadeveon Clowney has tapped out, and I'm pretty sure other guys are probably on their way of tapping out as well.
Clowney's not even playing in this game. They're sitting him.
Not even playing. Pittsburgh just has a lot more to play for.
Yep.
And they have a lot more pride, I think, on the line to get this W than Cleveland does at this point in the year. So I'm going to rock with the Steelers for the victory.
I agree. I think the Steelers are going to win this game. And when I previously had picked the Jets, and I am sticking to my Bills pick, that would have meant that the Steelers are in. So if the Jets do pull off the victory, I believe the Steelers will win. I believe the Bills will win. That means I'm picking the Steelers to make the playoffs. But when I heard about Joe Flacco, that changed everything. So it looks like the Dolphins will make it in. But yeah, I'm picking the Steelers. I think they're playing so well. This Cleveland team is so up and down. Deshaun Watson is still not anywhere near where he used to be. I know they won last week. I picked them to win last week against Washington, but that was more of a reflection of, I think, the Commanders than necessarily Cleveland themselves. They're without Jadeveon Clowney. This defense has been one of the worst defenses all year. They are, defensive DVOA is actually 15th since week 10, but that's an improvement. They were one of the worst defenses in the first half of the season. So I'm going to go. I'm going to say Tomlin wins, keeps at least the winning streak alive of no losing records. And if the Dolphins and Patriots lose, Steelers get to get the number 7 seed. Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Washington Commanders. Actually, a lot of implications here because we'll talk about the Eagles game shortly. But if Dallas wins this and the Eagles lose, Dallas wins the NFC East after the Eagles have dominated all year long. Not only that, if somehow the Niners lose at home to the Cardinals, not likely, and the Cowboys lose, and the Cowboys win and the Eagles lose, Dallas still has a chance of the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, as crazy as that is. So on the road, Washington Commanders, Sam Howell, we're going to get to see him for Washington. Your thoughts?
Yeah, with all those things for the Cowboys to play for, I expect them to come out and send a message early. And I expect them to win handedly. Dallas, with all those things in play, they have something to play for. And even if those things don't fall their way, you want to have positive momentum as you head into the playoffs. I expect Dak to probably have one of his better games of the year. Their running game to get off to a particularly strong start. And their defense is now playing against a guy in Howell, who's a rookie quarterback in his first start. I expect them to terrorize a Washington offensive line that's been hit or miss throughout the year. And in my eyes, really got exposed when they played the Giants on Sunday night. So I expect Dallas to win this by double digits and at least put themselves in a running for a division title.
Yeah, I do also think it's a division game, and you never know. Washington did, after all, beat the Eagles earlier this season, gave them their first loss, but that was with Heineke at quarterback, not a rookie making his first ever start in Week 18 against the Cowboys pass rush, which is one of the best in the NFL, and Micah Parsons, who is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate for much of the season. I'm with you. I think Dallas wins this game handily. They've got so much to play for. There's no reason for them not to have their foot on the gas, even though it's on the road. I'm agreeing with you there, picking the Cowboys. San Francisco 49ers, we mentioned there are implications here. Arizona Cardinals, it is at Levi Stadium right here in Santa Clara. They've been, we mentioned, the number 1 team in DVOA since Week 10 by a landslide. Their percentage is 49.9. Kansas City at number 2, 29.9. 20 points better in DVOA than any other team across the board, offense and defense. Christian McCaffrey hasn't been practicing, so we have to keep that in mind. But is there a scenario where the Cardinals can actually pull this off on the road with everything they have going on?
Maybe if Cole McCoy is playing. I don't think he is.
Yeah, it's looking like he's not going to play.
He's not going to play. They don't have a chance.
Yeah.
Arizona, they showed when they played Tampa, without a quarterback on their team, like a legitimate quarterback that can at least move the ball up and down the field, they're just not good enough as a unit to overcompensate for that. And I think for the Niners, hearing that McCaffrey probably might be on ice, I think that's the smart plan. You want to have substantial momentum, obviously, heading to the playoffs. That's been a common theme for me because I think that's important. But I expect the Niners to go up early and then from there rest their starters as they prepare for the postseason down the line. So this is another divisional game that I expect to get out of hand pretty fast in the later evenings.
Yeah, this is a Niners defense who has been far and away the best defense in the NFL all season. Fresh off giving up 500 yards against Jarrett Stidham and the Raiders, this team is going to want to send a message. And they're going up against Trace McSorley. DeAndre Hopkins might get traded in the offseason. We don't know if Kingsbury is going to be back. That's just such a mess in Arizona. I think that the Niners are, I agree, they're going to get up. They're going to get up early, and they'll rest their key starters. We might not even see McCaffrey in this. We might not have to see McCaffrey. Niners did designate Elijah Mitchell to return. Doesn't mean he'll be active for this game, but he's coming back. Most of the rest of their team is healthy on both sides of the ball. Yeah, I think this is an easy Niners victory. And the next game that this matters for is the Philadelphia Eagles at home against the Giants. Giants have locked in the 6th seed. The reports I saw today is that the Giants are expected to rest their starters and that Jalen Hurts is in line to return as the starting quarterback of the Eagles. It's in Philly. A lot to play for. The Eagles need to win this game to get the number 1 seed and to lock up the NFC East. Is there a scenario where the Giants pull this off, though?
There's not. And I think, Brian Dable early on, he spoke with pride. They just came off a big win. When you hear reporters asking, will you rest your starters? You're like, of course not. But I think it's the right decision and right move for them, especially knowing the injury history of Saquon Barkley and the way they utilize Daniel Jones. You kind of want to protect them for when the games matter. This is a shoe-in for Philly. I expect them to also win this handily and secure the number 1 seed. And they deserve it, man. They've been really playing like the best NFC team when Hurts has been there
Right.
all season long. So they had a couple blips along the radar the past 2 games, led by Gardner Minshew. But it seems like the core's back, healthy, ready to focus and lock in on their opponent. And I expect them to win handedly against the Giants.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think they'll pull off this victory even if Minshew plays. I think he'll get his first victory in his 3 starts. Although I don't see a reason why Hurts wouldn't start at this point. He is practicing, and even Sirianni himself has said that he expects it, or at least is trending like Hurts will play this game, and they have so much to play for because it is huge to not only win the division and get the number 1 seed, but if they lose and jump to the 5 seed, you don't have any home games. This is there's a lot of impact in this game. The Giants are going to be resting their starters as they should be. I'm with you. Philadelphia wins handily. Sorry for the Niners fans that I know are in the chat. David, in particular, looking at you. I think the Niners are going to be stuck at the number 2 seed here. All right, going on to the LA Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. The impact here is Seattle is winning in if the Packers lose later. So the Seattle needs to win this game to still have a shot at the playoffs. It is in Seattle. They're coming off a win over the Jets. The Rams have been kind of up and down under Mayfield, where they'll play amazing and crush the Broncos and then get pounded by the Chargers the next week. Maybe this is an up week. Is there a path to the Rams winning this one on the road against the Seahawks?
I think there is. And I'm picking my first upset here. I got the Rams potentially winning this one. And they played each other in SoFi, I think, in the middle of the year. And that game was particularly close with John Wolford as their quarterback. It came down to Seattle kind of needing one more touchdown to secure the victory. Both teams match up with each other particularly well. That's always been the case for the past few years. And I do like the Rams' defense enough to contain Seattle's offense, to force some turnovers. And always when you have a backup quarterback or a third stringer, shortening the field off of defensive takeaways goes a long way into your offense getting some very important scores. So I have the Rams pulling off the upset rather, and that sets the stage for a winning scenario for the Packers and the Lions on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, and we have to talk about Cam Akers. He has, I think, finally we're seeing that he's fully recovered from the Achilles tear, and that he still has it. He has actually been very good. He's been the cog of that offense that has really helped. You need a top running back for this McVay offense to work. We saw it when Gurley was the lead back a few years ago in that Super Bowl run back in 2019. And we're seeing it again. I think Baker is better when he's got a strong running game and he can do what he does best, which is work off of play action, do some bootlegs. He's an accurate quarterback when he's feeling himself. So I like this. Seattle is 29th since Week 10 in rush defense DVOA. They've been a little bit better over the last 4 games, but over the course of not just the season, since Week 10, they've been one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL, and that's what McVay wants to do first when he's got a stud running back and Akers is playing as well as he has at any point in his career. I'm agreeing with you. This is another one of my upsets. I am picking the Rams to win this game. I'm not going to lie, part of this, this is for our producer Anthony, is because I want the Lions to get in the playoffs. And the Seahawks have to lose to do that. But I do think that the Rams are in a position to win this game. And because I like how it's matching up, I am also going to pick the Rams. Let's talk about the Chargers. 2 games left to preview with 2.5 minutes left. No impact on this game. Chargers on the road at the Denver Broncos. Chargers are locked into, I believe it is the 5 seed in the NFL. That's not going to change. Denver Broncos, they played better without Nathaniel Hackett, but they still ended up losing. It's all about next year. There's got new ownership. Who are they going to hire? What are they going to do? I mean, they can't do much at quarterback. So we can quickly move this game on and then really give some time to the last game, Lions-Packers. Who do you have in Chargers at Broncos?
Coin flip, I'll probably lean with the Chargers because I think even if they sit Herbert out, they'll probably give him a quarter. I think they'll go up enough points, and that Denver offense just isn't explosive enough with whatever quarterback they have in there to at least get to 17. So I think LA ends the regular season with the divisional win.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I think that I don't think Staley won't sit his starters completely, and I don't think the Broncos has the offensive firepower, and their defense actually hasn't been as good lately. I mean, they let up, 50 points to the Rams? So I'm also going to lean Chargers. Let's give the last just under a minute and a half to the game I'm most excited about. I know Anthony's most excited about as a Lions fan. Detroit Lions on the road at Lambeau against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is 5-0 in play-in games. He has never lost a game in which he needed to win to get into the playoffs. This is that scenario. As long as Green Bay wins, they're in. If Green Bay loses and the Seahawks lose, the Lions are in. If the Seahawks win, then the Lions can spoil the Packers and give the Seattle the number 7 seed. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, I love Detroit, and the reason why is because their offensive line play and their defensive line play. I think they found something with James Houston along with Aiden Hutchinson that can get to the quarterback, and that's going to really put pressure on Green Bay's weakness on the outside at the tackle spot. And then on the offensive side, they can run with the best of them. They're going to make sure to ground and pound, and they're always using that to open up the pass. Goff has been one of the better passers off of play action. I think Detroit comes into Green Bay, pulls off the upset, and cans Green Bay's playoff hopes.
He has, I saw the stat earlier, he's first or second Goff in the last 5 or 6 weeks in touchdown to interception ratio, QB rating, all of these things. If I'm being my normal analyst, I'm probably picking the Packers, but my heart wants the Lions to win. So I'm going to pick Detroit on the road to win. I'm hoping the Rams beat the Seahawks earlier in the day, and the Detroit Lions go to the playoffs, the Hard Knocks team that we all love. So I'm going to stick with that. David Morazzo says, as exciting as the Lions have been, I can't see Rodgers losing this game at home. You're probably right, David. I am picking this game with my heart. Kambui, thank you so much for joining us for Week 18. Any last thoughts as we head into the final week of the NFL regular season?
Look, great for you to have me. It was an honor to be a guest on this segment pod. I'm so used to podcasts, but yeah,
it is a podcast. It goes out as a podcast as well. It's a show. It's live. It's everything.
It was great to be on this podcast. Great to talk football. Want to send, obviously, my prayers and well wishes out to Hamlin. Hope he continues to get better through that process, and I think he will. And I just can't wait to watch some football as we close into the games that matter, the playoffs. This is the best time of the year as a football fan. You have the national championship around the corner. You have the NFL playoffs around the corner. I just can't wait to really just dissect it all and watch some very good competitive football on our way to the Super Bowl.
Could not agree more. Kambui, thank you for coming on. We will definitely have you on the show again. As I mentioned at the start of the show, next Friday, we're going to be launching the Legit Football podcast. We had it previously. It was really just a rehash of the newsletter, but we are launching it as a more in-depth, deeper, longer form version of our football show. 30 minutes of football will still be around. We'll figure out the cadence and the topics, but stay tuned. Next Friday, we'll be previewing all of Wild Card Weekend on that Friday show, and then we'll start doing a recap on Monday as well. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, as always, guys, for listening, for watching. If this is your first time here, if you're listening, subscribe where you get your podcast. If you're watching, hit like and subscribe. We're going to keep bringing you NFL content all year long. And as always, check out legitfootball.com and sign up for our free NFL newsletter. And check out Independent Intel, Kambui's podcast. Thank you, guys. This is the last regular season. Thanks for the ride. We'll keep you going in the playoffs in the offseason. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the games. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.